What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Raw Prospect Podcast. My name is Emmy Nixon, and today is August the 16th, 2022. We're recording episode 117 now, and we're in person for the first time in a long time. But joining me, as always, from right next to me, Mr. Michael, the Stat King himself, Mr. Michael Lean. What's up, man?
What is up with me? It's so great to have you here in our little mini, somewhat resembling a studio.
Yeah.
In the comforts of my own home. Episode 117, and we've been talking football a lot the past couple of weeks. Starting to get into our NFL preview and talking some college football, and we've got so much more to come before the season actually starts. But today is going to be a little bit of a change of pace. We are doing our best player on each team in the NBA bracket. I'm pretty sure we're going to go through the entire thing, but who knows?
Yeah, we'll keep track of time. We'll assess as we go, but we'll get right into it. Basically, the criteria is pretty simple. We're just going off of basically the same criteria we had with the quarterbacks, which if you haven't watched those yet, is basically a combination of what we've seen already, particularly more recently, combined with a projection of what we think will happen with this player next year based on what they've done in the past few years. So it'll be exactly like the quarterback bracket, pretty simple. And we're just going to get right into it. I think we're just going to start with the Eastern Conference, if you're cool with that. So the first matchup for the East is going to be the number 8 seed Darius Garland and number 9 Pascal Siakam. So I'll just let the floor go to you and go ahead and give your take.
These are always the toughest matchups, or some of the toughest matchups when it's real bracket season and we're in March Madness and we're doing our brackets. Then, in any other type of bracket, these 8-9 matchups, or the 4-5 matchup, in the NBA playoffs are always tough. We have two younger players. We have Darius Garland for the Cleveland Cavaliers, a guy I watched a lot of this past season. Averaged 21.7 points per game. Was really the star on that Cavs team. Was Colin Sexton down. His shooting split's pretty good. Shot 38% from three. 51% from the field, a 53% effective field goal percentage, and 89% from the line. All while averaging 8.6 assists per game and 1.3 steals per game. So he's making an impact on the defensive end too, along with scoring. And being a first-time All-Star in his third season in the league, and really made that jump from the previous year when he averaged 17 points per game. And to me, I foresee him as the leader of this team moving forward. Obviously, Colin Sexton coming off injury. Is he a free agent?
Yes, currently.
He's still a free agent, so he's still unsigned.
Right.
So, they got some nice pieces in there. Obviously, they drafted Evan Mobley, who I really like. They got a great front court. So I really like Darius Garland. Now he's going up against Pascal Siakam. Guy who's had his fair share of availability problems, some injuries here and there, but still a real nice player for that Raptors team. Averaged 22.8 points per game last year. Didn't shoot as well from the line, but shot well from the field, 52%, good efficiency, 35% from three. This is so tough, but for me, I have to go with Darius Garland. I think it's a bright future for the Cavaliers. Not that I don't love Pascal Siakam, but I just think Garland is going to be the leader of the Cavs team going forward. That's all I can really say.
Yeah, that's fair. And I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, this is a really tough matchup, but these are two completely different players, which also makes it even tougher. I mean, Pascal Siakam, you can't talk about him without mentioning, how versatile he is on defense. I mean, what he does for the Raptors defensively, I think, is a little bit underrated at this point in his career. Um, I mean, he's switchable. He has good size and good athleticism. He can protect the rim, and he can also switch on to the smallest guards of the league. So that kind of value he gives you is really important, especially in the scheme like the Raptors, where you have four big forwards on the court, 6'7" and taller. But I am going to go with Darius Garland here, just because I think it's clear that he's on the higher trajectory. I think at this point in Pascal Siakam's career, um, unless something unforeseen happens, I think for the most part he is who he is. I think he can still improve little kinks in his game. He's still in his prime. Obviously, I think he's going to be. I think he's going to have a really good season again this year. But I just think Darius Garland has that upward trajectory, and I think um, based on what we saw last year, it's fair to say he might get into the 25 points per game type of range, which would put him in the upper echelon of point guards. So I think I definitely got to give the edge to Garland. Okay, so our next matchup is going to be Jason Tatum versus Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah, Halliburton's a really nice player for the Pacers, emerging out of Iowa State. Watched him a lot in college. I've watched him a lot in the pros while he was in Sacramento. It's kind of really taken over the reins of that Indiana team. Had a good year last year, played 77 games, so he was available. Averaged 15 points, 8 assists, on good efficiency, 41% from three. He's a really nice player. I really like him, but he's going up against Jason Tatum, who right now is a top 10 player in the league, is still ascending, just took his team to the finals, and although that finals performance sort of left a somewhat sour taste in my mouth, he's Jason Tatum. I gotta go with him.
Right. Yeah. This one's pretty simple for me as well. Got to go with Jason Tatum. He's proven more. He just went on a finals run, and it'd be easy to talk about recency and what happened in that finals, but we can't undercut what he did during the regular season. I mean, the Celtics were, um, you know, obviously it's been well documented where they were at halfway through the season. They were well below 500, and then they went on a huge run, and a lot of that was because of Jason Tatum. And the thing that's really impressive to me about Jason Tatum is he's a three-level scorer, but it's mostly predicated on the 3-point line. Um, I believe he shot around 42% on threes on off the dribble threes in the playoffs on high volume as well. But he did struggle to finish out the rim. So that's a really interesting part about his game. I think that's probably the next step for me for Jason Tatum. I think he just has to improve that finishing ability and that mid range game. And I think um, we'll see a lot of good things from him moving forward for sure.
Absolutely. Uh, okay, our next matchup is going to be Jimmy Butler against a second-year player now in Cade Cunningham. Who do you think?
Yeah, I'm just gonna keep it moving quickly for this one. I'm gonna go with Jimmy Butler, obviously. And it's not that Cade isn't projecting to be really good this year. He actually is, but I can't not choose Jimmy here just out of respect and just um, out of the career he's had in this over these last few years. I mean, he's just been so good in the playoffs. Um, you know, you can talk about the regular season all you want, but the playoffs is what matters, and that's when Jimmy Butler shows up.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. In the playoffs this past year, round one, he averaged 30 in a 4-1 gentleman's sweep of Atlanta. Round two, beat Philly in six, averaged 27.5 points, along with 7.5 rebounds and 5 assists. And in round three, in a series they almost won, if a shot or two had fallen against Boston, averaged 25.6 points per game, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists. And if you look at his playoff numbers throughout his career, he's been fairly consistent. And so until Kate Cunningham shows a bit more, and I do think that Pistons team is going to be improved with some of the young talent injection that occurred this offseason.
Right.
But Jimmy Butler is Jimmy Butler. Even at the age of 32, I still think he's got a couple prime years left.
Right. Exactly. Pretty simple there. Moving right along to the next matchup, it's going to be the 2 versus 15. It's going to be Joel Embiid versus this year's number 1 overall pick, Paolo Banchero. Paolo hasn't played a game in the NBA yet. Got to go with Joel Embiid. He was the MVP candidate last year. He will be again this year, most likely. It's just all about, health for Joel Embiid to me. And it's also, I think he's at a stage in his career a little bit similar to Dirk Nowitzki's career, a little bit, where, he's had a bunch of amazing regular seasons in a row, and he just has to, step it up in the playoffs just a little bit. I mean, if you look at the numbers, he's played really well in the playoffs, but it's just the little things here and there he can clean up in the playoffs. And I think this year might be the year for that, for sure.
Yeah, I think Banchero is going to end up being really good. But at this point, you got to go with the more established player, the MVP candidate, who, let's be honest, if it wasn't for Yokic, we would have probably won the award. And it's tough because, he had that orbital fracture and that whatever it was, concussion, sort of slowed him down for a couple games there in the playoffs, unfortunately, or at the end of the season. But this is pretty self-explanatory.
Right. But one thing I do want to mention, though, is if you disagree with the selection of Paolo Banchero as the Orlando Magic's best player, definitely leave a comment below about who you think that might be, because we actually did have some, discussion about who we were going to pick at the spot, because there were a number of players on that roster that we considered. Okay, so next matchup is going to be DeMar DeRozan versus Bradley Beal. Yeah, this one, I'll start off this one just by saying this is probably the toughest matchup on the bracket. It's one of them for sure in the 7-10 slot. Beal right now, a lot of people are low on Beal just because of the lack of team success the past few years. But I just think when he's right, when he's healthy, and when he's, in the right mind frame, I think there's not a lot of premier scorers you would choose before him right now. But even with that being said, he is getting a little bit older, and he did have a down season last year. So I think it's fair. It might be a little bit of recency bias, but I think I have to give the benefit of the doubt to the player who had the better season last year. They're both in their 30s, and I think DeMar DeRozan's game will age better, in my opinion. I just think he has a more refined game based on, shooting over the top rather than, explosive drives or, coming off of pin downs and firing up threes. I think DeMar DeRozan's game is just really solid and can be replicated even at a more advanced age.
The thing that stands out to me, ever since DeMar went to San Antonio or got traded to San Antonio 2018-2019, he hasn't averaged less than 5.5 assists per game. That's for the past 4 seasons. Before that, he only averaged 5 assists per game once.
Right.
So really, the playmaking ability has really improved for DeMar, and I think you spoke to it. His ability to create shots pretty easily from the mid-range, get to the basket. He's still aging pretty elegantly at the age of 32, going into his age 32 season. Bradley Beal's a little younger.
Mm-hmm.
But he's in Washington, and I still got to see more consistency out of him. So just got the big contract. We'll have to see. Really like him as a player, but I got to go with Demar.
Right. And the playmaking is the part of DeMar's game no one talks about. He showed this last year. He showed this in San Antonio also. Just his leadership ability is just really, really underrated. Um, they had a conversation about this actually on the Draymond Green podcast. I'd recommend listening to that. They had an interview with Draymond Green and DeMar DeRozan, where he talked about how his father had passed away and all that. I'm not going to get into all that, but definitely go listen to that podcast because he kind of gets into his leadership ability and how that evolved in San Antonio. But anyways, moving on here, the next matchup is going to be Kevin Durant and RJ Barrett.
Kevin Durant.
Yeah, simple. Kevin Durant moving along. He's in controversy right now, but he's just flat out the better player. Not a debate at all. Okay, moving along. Our last matchup of the first round in the Eastern Conference is going to be Trae Young versus Lamellar Ball.
You go first.
Okay, Trae Young. Okay, I'll just say this. Trae Young is, he's, talked a lot with his defense. People talk a lot about his defense, I should say. Being, subpar, but for what he is, and that is a offensive engine to the highest degree. Trae Young on your team basically gives you a just a automatic top 5 offense in the NBA. And he showed that last year, and he showed that the year prior as well when they made the Eastern Conference Finals. And up to this point, I haven't seen that from LaMelo Ball. So I think it's pretty simple. I have to go with Trae Young. I just think on top of all those things I just said, he's just also the better player. So simple enough.
Yeah, he's the better player, but also what some people don't realize is now he has a running mate in that backcourt that can maybe mask some of those defensive
shortcomings.
Right. In DeJounte Murray. So I think that combo is going to end up being really good. So Trae Young.
Yeah.
Could play more off the ball.
Exactly.
Take some of the offensive responsibility off his shoulders. Be more fresh for the playoffs, that sort of thing. And he's already proven it, made a playoff run. Got to see more from LaMelo.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that's going to do it for the first round out east. Now we're going to move it over to the Western Conference and do the first round over there. One thing I just thought about is, where is Giannis? Oh, he got a first round bye. Okay, yep.
So is that.
Okay, yep. Giannis got a first round bye. If anybody was wondering, I just answered my own question. Okay. Over to the Western Conference, the first matchup is going to be Anthony Edwards versus Damian Lillard.
Oh, man.
Yeah, man.
This is so tough because Damian Lillard, outside of a couple players here and there, for me, is one of the guys that I not only just love to watch play, and I think gets sort of, he goes under the radar because he plays in those late night West Coast games in Portland. Portland's been they've been competitive, but they're not always, being talked about enough. They're always sort of straddling that 6, 7, 8 seed sort of territory.
Right.
Just keeping their heads above water. And he had the injury last year, obviously tough for him. Hopefully he comes back stronger than ever. He is the more established player, and he's a guy I respect. But, man, this might just be personal preference, but I think Anthony Edwards is on the higher trajectory right now. The team they got in Minnesota, not everyone loved what they gave up for Gobert, but I think he makes them a better team on the basketball court.
Exactly.
Anthony Towns got to clean up some things. Sort of the little things not the same as Joel. That's another discussion for
Yeah,
another day.
right.
But Anthony Edwards, man, he's so electrifying, and he's only going to get better. So I'm going to go with Anthony Edwards, even though I love Damian Lillard.
Yeah. Man, it's so tough because I know Damian Lillard is just waiting to prove everyone wrong.
He probably will.
Yeah, I feel like he will, but it's also just I really do believe that Anthony Edwards is going to establish himself as a superstar player. Um, I don't know if it will happen right away in the season, if it'll click right away, if he'll start out hot, but I think at some point this season, I think he's going to establish himself as a 27, 28 point per game guy, a bona fide superstar player on great efficiency, and also a fantastic defender, which can't be understated as well. He has, it's so often said defensive potential, but he has defensive potential. He has that competitive spirit that's needed on the defensive end to be great on that end. So it's really tough, but I am going to give the edge to Anthony Edwards. But I also think Damian Lillard will probably average over 30 this year.
I won't be surprised.
Yeah,
whatsoever.
I just have that feeling, Damian Lillard's probably going to average 30. But I do think the Timberwolves are the better team, which feels weird to say. So I think they'll actually have the more team success out of these two as well. So
And that factors into this.
yes, exactly. Yeah.
So our next matchup, John Morant and De'Aaron Fox in the 4-13. There's no disrespect to De'Aaron Fox, but I think this goes to John Morant.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of two players that are in like a similar mold, but John Morant has just done so much in just a short time he's been in the league. I think people forget that he's only going into his fourth year, right? Third year? I don't even know at this point.
Year.
Yeah,
I'll verify that.
right.
Keep talking.
Right. But anyway, yeah, he's done so much in his short time in the NBA that people forget he's still extremely young, and he's still, he's gonna improve more and more and more as that jump shot, irons itself out. He already has good form. So John Morant just clear as day right there.
He's actually going into his fourth season in the league.
Yeah.
But he's only 22 years old. And he's coming off a year in which he averaged 27.4 points per game. And to be honest with you, they didn't shoot all that well from three, 34%. I think he could do better than that. But he did have good efficiency. Obviously, he attacks a lot. I do worry about some of the, he hits the floor hard a lot.
Some of the wear and tear.
Yeah, the wear and
definitely.
tear, the injury risk. But, other than that, man, he's just like Anthony Edwards, but sort of in a different, more electrifying way.
Right, yeah.
So exciting to watch.
Exactly. If I'm Memphis, I'm going to, just load manage the crap out of John Morant.
Yeah.
Just extend his career as long as you can, because you have something special in John Morant. You don't see him come around too often. Anyways, moving on here, our next matchup is going to be Kawhi Leonard versus his former teammate Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Well,
wait, actually, no, they weren't teammates. He was there the year before. Former Clipper. We'll go with that.
Right. Man, this is interesting because we didn't see Kawhi last year. The last time we saw Kawhi on a basketball court, he was Kawhi. He averaged 25 points, did Kawhi-type things. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, with the talent they have in Oklahoma City now, obviously there are doubts about Chet Holmgren, but he's still a 7'2", 7'3" unicorn who I think will help that team in one way or another.
Right.
Josh Giddey, who I really love.
Yeah.
And others. I think I have to go with Kawhi, but it's closer than I think. It's closer than you think.
Yeah, it's tough because it's hard to project what the Thunder will do
Yeah.
because they have so many options here. If they don't want to go all in, they could just like get to the deadline and trade for an all-star and change everything.
Right.
If they do want to go all in, they have so many options. So um, the Thunder season outlook could just change in an instant. So it's so hard to predict what's going to happen with that team. But on the Kawhi side of things, I just think Kawhi's, first step, it's always been really good, obviously, but the key to Kawhi's game is just his core strength and just how he's able to get his defender off the spot to create this space. So, I mean, I don't see that part of his game going away anytime soon. I mean, maybe he'll get to the basket a little bit less, but I mean, he's still Kawhi Leonard. He's gonna score. I mean, um, the year before the last time we saw him, he dropped like that was no the year last time we saw him, he dropped like 40 in a game 6 against the Mavericks. So
There are a couple other players like this, but when you think of Kawhi Leonard, when I think of Kawhi Leonard at least, you think of the quintessential get a stop, get a bucket guy.
yeah,
He is the guy that you want, one of the guys that you want, guarding the best player when the nitty gritty, it gets down to the nitty gritty in the playoffs, and he's the guy you want, especially on that team. But one of the guys I would take in the entire NBA to have the ball to take the last shot because you talk about there are so many ways he can create space in the mid range. His shot is so pure from like the 15 to 18-foot range.
Yeah.
He's got an underrated post game. When he gets down to the post, he's got a nice turnaround that he goes to pretty often. He's gotten so much better spotting up from three, and he can also get to the basket. And with those hands, man.
Yeah, you're not stopping Kawhi, man.
Yeah.
Got to go with Kawhi Leonard here. Kawhi is just such a he really is, man. I'd love to maybe do a ranking before the season starts and maybe revisit this conversation. But for now, we're just going to move on. We got a lot to get to tonight. So for the next matchup, it's going to be Luka Doncic versus Jalen Green. I'm a Mavericks fan. I mean,
it's Luka.
You probably know. Luka. Yeah, it's Luka.
Just took his team to the Western Conference Finals. It's already like on track to be one of the greatest scorers in NBA history. And as long as he stays healthy, I love Jalen Green. He's gotten shit on a lot if you listen to the Bill Simmons podcast, but I think he's gonna be a great player. And now they have Jabari Smith down in Houston. They got a lot of young talent, but this is Luka Doncic, man. This is top 5 player in the league right now.
Yeah. One thing I will say about Jalen Green is it's rare to see a guard coming into the league where you see the scoring polish right away. He already has go-to moves he goes to. He already knows how to create space. Now he's just got to get the shots to drop, which that's the tough part for a lot of players. But for Jalen Green, I mean, if he can just become a little bit more efficient, I mean, he's already has the foundation to his game to be a really, really good player. So that's one thing I'll say. But yeah, Luka Doncic, 100%. I just wanted to defend Jalen Green a little bit, obviously. So moving along, the next matchup. This one's really interesting. Devin Booker versus Donovan Mitchell.
Well, the outlook could change very quickly for Donovan Mitchell because he's in some trade rumors right now. We don't exactly know what Utah is going to do with him. They obviously traded away Rudy Gobert and made some other moves. And look, I really like Donovan Mitchell. He's he's had a couple monster games in the playoffs. They've gotten to the second round a couple times. I still really like Donovan Mitchell. He gets shit on a lot, but if I'm factoring in team success and the uncertainty there with Utah and the uncertainty of where Donovan Mitchell may end up, it might be New York, it might be some other place. Who knows? I think Devin Booker and what Phoenix is going to do, that gives him the edge over Donovan Mitchell tonight.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. Um, these are two guys that I think fall in a similar tier in my mind, just because they're not the type of guy that um, you know you could say is like the offensive engine prototype. Which there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, there's still a lot of good in these guys' games, obviously, and you know it could I could really honestly go either way and not go wrong. These guys are both extremely good, but man, I'm gonna go with Devin Booker a little bit, just like in spite of myself, because there's like a part of my gut telling me like Donovan Mitchell is gonna average like 32 or something on that bad Jazz team next year. But at the end of the day, those are empty stats, and Devin Booker might be an MVP candidate this year with the outlook the Suns have and how good that team is, and he has something to prove. Both these players do, but Devin Booker specifically because of how his season ended last year. So I'm really interested to see how he plays this next year. Okay. Um, last two matchups here. Um, second to last one is going to be Nicola Jokic and Keldon Johnson. There you have it, folks. Even the Spurs fan is laughing.
Yeah, the two-time reigning MVP. But here's what I'll say. Keldon is going to be asked a lot this season because obviously the team has been reshaped, redone a little bit.
Right.
A little bit of a rebuild. What Keldon Johnson did last season was impressive. He stays healthy, keeps his body in shape. Really made strides from the three-point arc, shooting 39.6%. Projected to average around 19 points per game this year, according to Basketball Reference. Shoot about 40% from three. He's going to have a real nice season, but this is the two-time reigning MVP we're talking about.
Right. Yeah. It's pretty simple for me as well. I mean, out of the entirety of the internet, this is probably one of the podcasts you'll see where we're probably some of the highest on Jokic you'll see out there. We really appreciate what Jokic does out there, and he's so fun to watch, man. Oh my goodness, just the way he breaks down the game. But that's another conversation for another day. But one thing I do want to say is just um, the thing that goes so underappreciated with Jokic. Obviously, we know he's an incredible passer and just like engine for the offense, but his mid-range game is at all-time efficiency. So, um, next time you go into Basketball Reference, guys, I highly recommend just go and look at Nikola Jokic's, percentages from the mid-range. He's absolutely incredible. So, anyways, last matchup here of the first round. This one is, oh my goodness, this one is crazy. It's going to be LeBron James versus Zion Williamson. Oh my goodness. Maybe the two most athletic people arguably drafted into the NBA over the last, however many years, 20 years. I mean, just insane. But we are projecting here. So this is a lot closer than you think, guys. I'm just going to preface, I'm just going to open with that. Um, Zion is someone who I hold in really high regard, but I think there's just something to say about what he hasn't shown on the defensive side of the floor and what LeBron has. What one thing I know is that LeBron, with the defensive struggles he may have in the regular season, when he needs to turn it on, he can. Maybe not to the extent that he could earlier points in his career, but he can do it. And when he does, he's still a, you know, at the very least a plus defender. I mean, he's still LeBron James. So I think if you look at it from that perspective, as well as the way LeBron facilitates and the way he's improved his jump shot as well, people don't talk about that. I mean, LeBron's jump shot has really allowed him to age extremely gracefully. I mean, it's I think last year and maybe the year before that were maybe the first times you really saw the age start to hit a little bit in terms of the interior finishing ability and just that ability to hang in the air. But that jump shot has been really really good for him, and I don't foresee that changing. So I'm gonna go with LeBron James.
I'm going to do the same, and I agree with you. Now, if we want to talk about team success and what the Lakers are going to be this year versus what the Pelicans might be this year if they get a healthy Zion, plus a CJ McCollum, plus a Brandon Ingram, and some of the other surrounding pieces, well, that could be a different conversation. But when Zion Williamson has been on a basketball court the past 2 years, he's been incredible.
Yeah.
Even with some of the defensive shortcomings. 27 points, 2020, 2021. He was an all-star, played 61 games, which is pretty good considering what we know now.
Yeah.
But missed all last year. Just need to see more consistency. He's barely played over a full season in the league. He's been in the league for 3 years now, so.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. I just feel like people are kind of sleeping on LeBron somehow.
Yeah, I think so too.
He's going to have, I think they're going to get, I hope they get a rejuvenated Anthony Davis that stays healthy. And if they do that, well, if you have LeBron and Anthony Davis, you can make that work. You can make it work. And I think LeBron's going to have another great season.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. And that's even with saying that the potential for the Pelicans is there. And if the Pelicans are a top 3 seed, going into, let's say, the All-Star break or Christmas, the Christmas Day games, if they're at that point, then Zion could even be an MVP candidate. So, really interesting matchup, but at the end of the day, it's still LeBron James. Okay.
All right, we are at about 37 minutes, so we can go through the second round, and then we'll see where we are.
Right. Exactly. Okay. You want to keep it out west for now, or
let's go back to the east.
Okay. Okay, let's go back to the east, where we have
Darius Garland and Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, there's a reason he had a bye.
Yeah.
I think, a lot of people say that, the best player in the world is kind of up for grabs right now, but I disagree, man. I disagree partially because there's also a guy named Stephen Curry who, does what he does. But to me, the best player in the world is Giannis Antetokounmpo. And,
I agree with you.
That might be, somewhat of a hot take, but I mean, it's pretty clear to me, like everything he does on the court. I mean, he can do everything. So
yeah,
simple. Gonna go with Giannis. End of story.
It's Giannis. Aaron Fader, who's a writer for The Ringer, she's a fantastic writer. She just wrote and it's crazy because he's only 28?
Yeah, 27, 28. Yeah,
27 years old.
Yeah,
but she wrote a book about Giannis that's been a New York Times bestseller. I haven't read it yet.
Ooh, I'd like to read that.
But
that sounds cool.
Talks a lot about his childhood and what he's done so far, and it goes all the way up into the finals run, and the finals MVP and that crazy thing. However, the performance he put on in those playoffs will forever stick in my mind.
Yeah,
and
never forget that.
The Bucks team kind of fell apart a little bit in this year's playoffs with the Chris Middleton injury, but no disrespect to Darius Garland whatsoever. Cleveland's going to be a good team.
Exactly.
Probably find their way to the playoffs. He's a great player. Might be an all-star game, but best player in the league.
Yeah, simple. Okay.
Now this one, Jason Tatum and Jimmy Butler. Ooh.
Yeah, this one, man. Okay.
They've both been to a finals. They both ended up losing, but
Yeah.
Thing.
Yeah. still have to consider that we're projecting here.
Yeah.
That's also a factor in this. Jason Tatum is the younger of the two, and I still think people don't really talk about it that much, but Jason Tatum still has so much room to improve. I feel like just the little things in his game, and just his understanding of the game, little things. But there's also something to be said on the other side with Jimmy Butler, who does have that attention to detail already locked in, and will turn it on when his team needs it. And you know, it's really tough, and maybe Boston fans will hate me for this, but I'm gonna go with Jimmy Butler. I just think his game is. I'm not gonna say more polished. That's probably not the right word, but he's figured out the game of basketball a little bit more, just on an advanced level, and that's obviously has to do with experience as well. But I really do think Jimmy Butler is going to have a really good season this year. I think um, I think he's going to feel rejuvenated after having that deep finals run, and with the way that ended, or Eastern Conference Finals run rather. And with the way that ended, I think he's going to have a really good season, and that might be a hot take. I know. That's no disrespect to Jason Tatum, but for me, this is so close to where it comes down to personal preference a little bit, and I'm going to go with the playoff performer.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was sort of thinking the same thing, and you may have just convinced me to go with Jimmy Butler. But Jason Tatum, I mean, he's what, 25?
Yeah.
Around that age.
Yeah.
Already been to a finals. Already has accumulated so much playoff experience.
Right.
And he's gonna. I mean, he's a worker, man. He's gonna, after some of the struggles he had in the finals, I guarantee you, he's gonna come back better, hungry, and wanting to go at it. And that Celtics team, I mean, you add Malcolm Brogdon. Hopefully, everyone stays healthy. You still have Jalen Green. Team success is really hard to judge because the Heat will be up there too, top 4 seed in the East, if I had to guess. But yeah, man. I know this is supposed to be a projection, but I really do think Jimmy Butler doesn't get enough respect for what he does, not only in the playoffs, but just in that locker room. I think there was a time last year where the Heat were really going through a tough
they really were.
Stretch. There was actually some heated arguments on the court and also within that locker room. He brought the temperature down. They made a deep playoff run. I think that plays a role in this too. The intangibles that Jimmy Butler displays, the leadership ability.
Exactly.
He's already kind of built up that callus, been in a couple different environments. I love Jason Tatum, but I think I have to agree with you. Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, our first upset of the bracket, guys. Let us know what you think in the comment section about that. I have a feeling it may not be overly positive, but nevertheless, let us know.
You got to branch out sometimes, and I don't think that's branching out too.
Yeah, I really don't. I really don't think that's that much of a stretch to think that Jimmy Butler could have a better season this year than Jason Tatum. So we'll see how it ends up being. But our next matchup, though, is going to be Joel Embiid and Demar Derozan. Yeah.
You go first.
Yeah, I'll go ahead here. Joel Embiid, for all the gripes I have during playoff time with him, he is absolutely incredible. Honestly, we're in a new golden age of big men. I truly believe that, and he's one of the faces of it on the forefront. And he's like a combination of post moves, agility, the skill to take it outside to the perimeter and shoot the 3 ball, but also be inside and just out out strength you.
Yeah.
I almost wanted to say shack you and turn that into a verb, but I mean, I think you would have known what I meant, but that's not a real verb. But I mean, nevertheless, man, just the versatility he has on the offensive end, and then on the defensive end, just his understanding of drop coverage has really been underrated, in my opinion. I mean, as much as we get on drop coverage, as how the NBA is shifting over to switchable defense and all that type of stuff, but um, drop coverage, if you do it right, is still, it still can get it done, and he's shown that. So I'm gonna go with Joel Embiid here, and obviously I haven't even mentioned DeMar DeRozan yet in this spiel here, but yeah, I just think Joel Embiid is gonna be a perennial MVP candidate, and I'm just not at that stage where I can say the same thing about DeMar DeRozan.
Totally agree with you. Joel Embiid, 27, is a younger player. We talked about his game. Obviously, we don't need to reiterate what we've seen on the basketball court, but he can do everything. He can pass, he can dribble, he can take it out, he can take you to the basket, he can post up. He's just got everything in his bag. Averaged over 30 points last year. I mentioned the injury he had. Been very consistent, actually, from beyond the arc. She shot 37%, 2020, 2021. Last year, shot 38%. Just everything about him. You have to love it. And as long as he's healthy, he's the better player.
Right, exactly. And it's always the health with him. That's always the one little caveat. But he has been.
I mean, 68
better
games last year. There's probably some load management mixed in there.
Right. And 68 is more than, a few years ago, more than we ever thought Joel Embiid would play in a regular season.
Right, yeah.
So I think it's a positive outlook for sure for him in terms of health.
And honestly, in the regular season, if your star plays 55 and 60, between like 55 and 60 games, those teams should have enough. I mean, it's really about the playoffs. It's when you want these guys to be healthy.
Right,
so
exactly.
You don't really need them playing 70, 75 games.
Yeah, exactly. And 2019 Raptors, a perfect example of that. Yeah. Okay. Next matchup, last one of the second round for the Eastern Conference here. It's going to be Kevin Durant and Trey Young. You can go ahead and go first this one.
Well, Durant's older. He's had some injuries. We talked about Trey Young and what could potentially be with him and DeJounte Murray in that backcourt. Atlanta's going to have success. But I just feel like going with Trey Young over Kevin Durant would present some problems in our comment section. So I don't know. I'm going to go with KD.
Yeah. I'm going to go with KD as well. A lot of people don't talk about the fact that he suffered an Achilles injury and he came back and averaged 30 2 years in a row. I mean, that's never happened before. Even Dominique Wilkins, as the only example historically that came back from an Achilles injury and continued to have success, he only had that success for one season and then fell off subsequently from there. So, even with the way things ended last year, I mean, I think Kevin Durant is still, he's still Kevin Durant. As the Kevin Durant quote. I mean, I'm Kevin freaking Durant. That's what he said. I mean, there's no debating that, man. He's Kevin freaking Durant. I mean, okay. Anyways, yeah, that's gonna do it for the second round of the Out East.
45 minutes. We probably have enough time for the last second round, and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
So, Anthony Edwards and Steph Curry.
Yeah.
Who gets the bye in the West, by the way?
Yeah, Steph Curry got the bye, exactly. Yeah, it's Steph Curry for me right here. Steph, man, I mean, we've talked about it so much on this podcast. The one thing I like about this bracket is we were able to talk about these players a little bit and what we love about them. And Steph, it's just, just his gravity. That obviously that's well documented. That's talked about so much, but the gravity can just not be understated. I mean, we've never seen anything like it in the NBA, and the things that provides for that Warriors offense is extremely, extremely evident. if you watch closely. So Steph Curry, I mean, even when he's not shooting well, I think Thinking Basketball actually did a segment about this. Is like the value of Stephen Curry when he's having an off game is still higher than a lot of. Well, obviously, it's still higher than most players. So Steph Curry here, man, pretty simple. Not yeah, pretty yeah.
For me, it sort of goes back to something you said earlier, and that's I think even though he's on the wrong side of 30, he's what 32, 33,
He's 34.
34.
Yeah.
Okay, wow, that really drives that point home. I think his game is going to age beautifully.
Yes, exactly.
I don't see it going anywhere.
I agree.
Soon.
Yeah.
Steph Curry. What else do I want to say?
Yeah, if anything, he's seeing the game better now.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, with the way he just performed in that finals, and that was probably, I mean, it wasn't a true gripe if you really looked at it, but that was the one gripe most people had about Stephen Curry up to the point of last year's finals was, oh, he just hasn't performed in the finals yet. He doesn't have the finals MVP. But what he did in last year's finals, I mean, that was just all-time stuff, especially what he did in Game 4. That was just incredible. Yep. Down 2-1, back against the wall, on the road in Boston. I mean, legendary. Nothing less.
He's proved it over and over and over again.
Yeah, nothing less. Just legendary.
Okay, Ja Morant and Kawhi Leonard. Woo!
It's getting spicy now. Okay. I guess I'll start off with this one. Man, the tricky part is the projection point of view of this. And I don't want to underrate Kawhi, but at the same time, I just think Ja Morant in a weird way is so important to his team in what he does. He's just the engine, but at the same time, he's also not because they were really good when he was gone. So it's just confusing. He does so much for the team, but at the same time, when he's gone, they don't get that much worse. And then Kawhi's point of view, he doesn't have to do as much, but he's extremely efficient. He gets to his spots. He doesn't, he doesn't have a super crazy high usage rate that we see in a lot of, guys now, stars now. And that's extremely important as well. So it's just all about what you value here and what you think Kawhi's game will be like. Because there's gonna be load management. It's Kawhi. We know that now. So it's just all about what you value here. And for me personally, I think I give the edge to Ja Morant just because I think the trajectory factor of it. I can't talk, but just the trajectory factor I think is what gives him the edge. It's not necessarily because he's the better player. I mean, there's an argument to be made there, but I wouldn't say that. But I just do think he's on the upswing, and maybe Kawhi is more plateaued.
That's fair, and I don't disagree with you at all. But
yeah, it's so tough. It's so tough.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Obviously, team success, when we revisit this down the road, could play a big factor in this as well. But I just feel like Kawhi, and I love Ja Morant, he's going to be an MVP candidate most likely. But if Kawhi comes back, like the Kawhi that we know, he could be in that conversation as well. I just think his game, his ability to create in the mid-range, his ability to create in the post, his ability to spot up the threes, probably been working. I don't know. I don't necessarily disagree with you, as I said. In fact, I agree with you, but I'm going to go with Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, that's completely fair, man. I mean, Kawhi definitely has the more versatile offensive game. No question about that. So, all about preference there, and that was the first time we disagreed of this podcast. So, yeah. Okay, next one's going to be Nicola Jokic and LeBron James.
I think we skipped Luca.
Oh,
and Devin Booker.
yeah. Okay. Yeah.
We can do either first. I mean, it doesn't matter. But we'll just do Luka and Devin Booker.
Yeah, we'll do Luca and Devin Booker first. Yeah, my bad about that. Yeah, I'll start this off by saying,
it's Luka, but
yeah, it's Luca. I mean, simple enough. But I do want to give my reasoning, and it's what I mentioned earlier in that Devin Booker versus Donovan Mitchell matchup. Is I see a tier below Luca as the guys who aren't quite that offensive engine type. We saw in the playoffs this past year when the Mavericks sent the double team, Devin Booker just didn't quite have the playmaking abilities to read that double team and be able to make the right play. And I think that, as well as Luca's ability to control the game, control the pace of the game, um, you know in the pick and roll, or just whatever the case may be, just being able to get to the rim and score at will. I think Luca also scores easier, which makes a difference. Devin Booker really has to work for his points. He makes a lot of contested shots. So all those factors to me are why I think Luca is just a tier above Devin Booker.
I agree with you. Really nothing else to add.
Yeah, simple enough. Okay. The matchup I mentioned earlier is going to end off the second round for the West. I mean, Nikola Jokic and LeBron James.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
Well, as I said before, I think LeBron is going to have a great season. He's going to come back healthy, obviously. Hopefully, he gets a healthy Anthony Davis. But at the same time, I think Jokic, back-to-back MVPs. You mentioned what he does. The efficiency is what stands out to you. I think he leads the league in player efficiency rating.
Yeah.
The past
true shooting.
years.
Yeah.
And true shooting percentage. Yeah. All those advanced metrics, you can look at it, and I guarantee you, Jokic is first or second in all those categories. So I have to go with Jokic.
Yeah, and as much as people gripe about advanced stats and advanced metrics, I mean, there is something to that. I mean, um, you know, some of the defensive advanced metrics aren't quite as accurate, especially defensive box plus minus and all that type of stuff. But the offensive metrics, those are the ones you can trust, and those all show Jokic as the best, or if not, top three. So, I mean, I'm gonna give it to Jokic here, and I'm also gonna mention the fact that Jokic doesn't miss games.
Right.
The best ability is availability, and I think that also plays a factor here as well, considering LeBron's age and his load management and those types of things. I think it's got to be Jokic.
Yeah, Jamal Murray's going to be back.
Yeah.
Clippers going to get better.
Yeah.
Just with the inbound acquisitions that they're going to get back from injury. Jokic, you can't argue with what he's done in the past 3-4 years.
Yeah.
And we all love LeBron, but Jokic.
He's that dude, man.
So we're about an hour in, and we've gotten through 2 rounds, which I think is a pretty good pace. So it's up to you, man. What do you want to do?
Let's see. It's 11:26 our time while are recording this.
Because if we're gonna go through, I think we've got to go through. We got to finish it.
I think we finish it.
Okay,
Yeah, I think let's do it. Yeah. Okay. Guys, it's gonna be a long episode, so grab some popcorn, maybe pause, grab coffee or something, because we're in for the long haul here, guys. We're going to get into this third round now. Over to the Eastern Conference side. The first match of the third round, I believe, would be
Giannis and Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, Giannis and Jimmy Butler, exactly. Yeah, this to me is probably going to, be one of the more simpler ones of this round, I'd assume. And that's not holding anything against Jimmy Butler, but just off of what I said earlier, I mean, y'all know I hold Giannis in such a high regard, and um, just everything he does on the court and what his physical abilities allow him to do, and also the fact that his mental abilities are catching up very quickly, and he's reading the game so much better. His playmaking is so much better. I mean, as a 6'11" guy, averaging 6 assists per game, I mean, that's rare in NBA history. And he's done that the last, like, 3 or 4 years, averaging six assists per game, which is just absolutely incredible. So, simple. Going with Giannis.
Everything about Giannis is rare. His size, his athleticism, his abilities on the basketball court, the way he performed in those playoffs. He's just rare. So Giannis, the best player in the league.
Yeah, for some reason, like when you were like listing, like I thought of that one meme where that guy was like, the way he talks, whack. the way he walks, whack. The way he talks.
Yeah. So we got Giannis advancing to the Eastern Conference Finals. Our next matchup is going to be Joel Embiid and Kevin Durant.
Oh, jeez. Man, okay. I'll start off with this one, I guess. Yeah, this is when it gets tough, guys. At this point in the rounds, I'll preface this by saying, like, either way you go here, you can't really go wrong. And I'd be interested to hear y'all's perspective in the comments below. Definitely leave what you think. But right here, I'm going to go with Joel Embiid. I mean, you're just splitting hairs with these matchups at this point. But for me, Embiid, I think we saw some of Durant's limitations as a passer this past year. And I think at the center position, I mean, you could say Embiid's not that great of a passer either, but he's also, at the center position, passing out of the post, and he does an admirable job with his playmaking, I think. So I think everything that Embiid does, I think at this point in their careers, I think Embiid just has less limitations. And, Durant, as pretty as his scoring is, as pretty as his mid-range game is, I think it's worth saying that I just don't think he gets to the rim as often anymore. And that's, I mean, I think it's just he's starting to slow down a little bit.
Yeah, that's fair. And for me, this might sound crazy, but are you going to see Kevin Durant play basketball? He's really making a scene out there in Brooklyn. But that's another story for another day. For me, I'm sure we will. He'll play. There was a rumor the other day that he might retire before he plays another game for Brooklyn again. I don't know if that's true, but it was reported by multiple sources. I don't know, man. It's just so much uncertainty right now. Not on the basketball court for Kevin Durant, but off the basketball court. And that has to play a role in this. And for Joel Embiid, he's showing up, he's in shape, and he's in the MVP conversation. I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Just by default, just him showing up, being healthy. And, man, threatening retirement, that is wild. I mean, the first thing that popped in my head is, like, this level of drama is, like, reaching Antonio Brown levels almost. Like,
we'll have to have another segment for Kevin Durant here pretty soon. But
stay tuned for that, guys.
Joel Embiid. So let's just finish out the East. Giannis and Joel Embiid.
I'm gonna go with Giannis, just because of his initiating ability. Now, I know that's not a fair thing to gripe Joel Embiid for, but it's more of just an addition to Giannis that Joel Embiid doesn't have, and I just think that's worth noting. I mean, if you're putting them head to head, I mean, you have to consider everything, and Giannis he can just do so much. I mean, Joel Embiid has so little weaknesses in his game, but also Giannis, I mean, for some of his, shortcomings shooting the ball, I mean, he also can just do more. You know?
Yeah, and he's getting better.
Exactly.
It's not to say that he's not getting better.
Exactly.
Obviously, Joel Embiid is great, but I just think, to be honest, already having that playoff run, that finals in his bag,
Exactly.
You can't. I mean, I'm not going to say what I said already 2 or 3 times on this podcast.
Right.
So,
it's just like the argument we made with Jimmy Butler earlier.
Yeah.
He's a proven playoff performer, and that takes the tie when it's close.
Yeah, and he's getting better.
Exactly.
Like, people might not think that, but he is.
Yeah.
And so
he still has so much room to improve.
scary.
It's insane to me.
And so far, he's stayed healthy. And that's
important as well. Yeah, definitely. Okay, that's going to sort it out for the East. Uh-oh.
Pause it and charge a little bit.
Okay, yeah. So we just close out the Eastern Conference, and now we're just going to pause the recording real quick, guys, and then charge up my laptop really fast, and then get back and finish up the West and finish up the bracket.
Yeah, we'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Okay, welcome back, guys. We're continuing it on. We had a long hiatus.
Yeah, we had a long hiatus. We had to charge Emmy's computer. We were going back in time in some NBA history. We've got some good content coming for y'all now. But yeah, we left off with finishing up the Eastern Conference. We both picked Giannis. So now we'll go to the Western Conference third round. For me, it's Steph Curry against Kawhi Leonard to start it off. And for you, it's Steph Curry against John Moran.
Man, okay. Well, for my side of the bracket, I mean, we saw this matchup in the playoffs, and we saw how it went.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Grizzlies put up a valiant effort, but I mean, what Steph and Curry can do on the court, I mean, I think it really showed itself most, especially in the closing minutes of those games. He really made it clear, you know. He made a point of, you know, just being like, I'm that guy, like I'm Steph freaking Curry. Like, there's no really other way of saying it, and I know that like the nuance isn't going to be that deep at this point, guys. I mean, it's just splitting hairs at this point. It's really tight. But for me, this one's pretty simple. I just think it's Steph Curry, what he was able to do last year, and also the point we made earlier. I think he's going to age extremely well. I don't see him going away anytime soon. I see him actually maybe even improving again next year, which is crazy to say. So, yeah, Stephen Curry, 100% right there.
For me, I agree. I'm going to go with Steph over Kawhi. I just don't know we can say that we're going to see, even though I think we'll see close to 100% full version of Kawhi Leonard. I just can't say that for sure. And I think the gravity of Steph, what he's been able to do, Steph Curry.
Yeah. And, you know, both of them at their peaks, it's very comparable.
Yeah.
But, like, as it stands right now, there's just too many questions surrounding Kawhi Leonard. So I think it's definitely fair to go with Steph there. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So bottom side of the bracket in the West, it's going to be Nicola Jokic versus Luka Doncic. Oh, wow. Okay, well, the first thing that has to be said when comparing these two guys is I think one aspect where Jokic has an edge is the fact that he's not, you know, a ball dominant player. I think that's such an advantage for a team when your star can be the offensive engine and you know, lead your team offensively, yet while still being more of just a pivot point surrounding him rather than him holding the ball, he being the heliocentric type of player. And I think there's definitely something to be said about that. And it's really tough. But look at the other side here, Luka Doncic. I mean, um, he's extremely heliocentric, and um, I don't know how to really attack this. They're so different yet similar in some ways in terms of passing ability, the way they see the game, and also the way they get around the court, kind of that slow, rhythmic kind of
Yeah, I know what you
waddling. I don't know, man. I couldn't think of a better word than that,
Yeah,
honestly.
Man, it's really tough. Obviously, Jokic, the thing that really stands out is his efficiency.
Yeah.
And what, the back-to-back MVPs is obviously something that we've talked about over and over again. But I also think at this point, Luka's what, a little younger?
Yeah, a little bit, a couple years maybe.
Yeah, for sure. And
yeah,
I know there's an argument to be made about team success and what that's going to look like. But we're not here to talk about that. But I think I love Jokic, but Luka, that more wing style, score in multiple different ways, even though Jokic can as well. I think Luka, I don't know, just younger.
yeah. I think there's also that tier that we haven't seen Luca reach in terms of conditioning.
That's true.
We already saw Jokic go through that arc, and we saw what came out of that, which was back-to-back MVPs and 2 amazing seasons. And now we're kind of maybe going to see Luca go through that same arc, and I think maybe it will be a similar trajectory, but I think Jokic may be at the end of that trajectory, if that makes sense. Um, okay, I am going to go with Luca here, but it's incredibly close, and um, I mean, maybe I'm a little biased here, but I just think um, I know I made the point about the heliocentric style of play, but to combat that, the other side of that is also just Luca as the point guard can do a lot of things offensively to where um, the defense really collapses on him and he can get to wherever he wants on the court no matter what. I think Jokic is limited in that sense, but obviously he's a center, so that's kind of unfair to say that. I don't even know how to even compare these two, but yet it's so difficult.
It's tough. You really can't go wrong.
Yeah, you really can't. I'm just gonna say Luka and move on,
But
guys.
my thing is, it's just he's younger. I do think he's going to eventually get to a space where he wins 1, possibly 2 MVPs. And even though Jokic is still really good, there's no end in sight right now. It's just that this is one of those things where it's just, a 6'7" point guard. What is Luka?
6'7", yeah.
That can do everything, play make. And I think even though the Nuggets had injuries last year and weren't fully put together, I think Luka does more with a little less than what the Nuggets had.
Okay, yeah, I would say that as
there's
well
an argument
when they're
to be
healthy,
made.
for
Yeah.
sure. For when they're healthy, absolutely. And I think Jokic may be on the more championship ready team currently, so we'll see how it plays out, and definitely leave your thoughts on this for sure. This is one of the more interesting matchups we've covered.
Okay. We're down to it now. For me, for both of us, I guess.
Yeah, Steph
Curry
and Luka.
And Luka. I think I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Luka.
Ooh. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Steph. it it's so difficult, obviously, but I just think maybe just slightly. I just think Steph, what he does off ball is what separates it to me. And also, I do think Stephen Curry is the better defender of the two. Um, I think um, the only factor I'd say is maybe the availability aspect of it. Steph's been injured more these past couple of years, but also Luka's been injured at times as well. So it kind of evens out a little bit. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna go with Steph.
Fair enough. What Steph has done, you can't deny it. I think the biggest thing, the biggest takeaway for me out of this episode is going to be the point that we made about his game aging beautifully. What he does off the ball is
Second to none
second to none
in history, maybe. Yeah.
And guess what? That Warriors team coming back this year, you expect Klay Thompson to come back better, more healthy, which will help.
Mm-hmm.
Another year of Jordan Poole, another year of that team coming back. And with Luka, the team success might not be there like it is for Steph, but I just think he's on a pace right now to eventually win a couple MVPs. He's gotten to a conference finals with, let's be honest, not the most talented roster.
That's fair to say, for sure. Yeah.
I know Steph has been the catalyst for most of those Warriors teams, but I think it's fair to say that Luka, what he's done with what he has and what he's going to do, in my opinion, I don't know, man. It's just something about Luka.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that last point. Maybe just like that doing more with less argument. That's a similar argument to what was made with the Russell Westbrook and Steph Curry debate a little bit prior to this, maybe like 5 or so years ago. That was the big debate that went on. Is Steph Curry or Russell Westbrook? Russell Westbrook did more with that Thunder team than with a little bit less, and then Steph obviously was winning those championships at that time. But it's you can't go wrong with either here.
I don't want to spoil it, but I was thinking either way I was going to take Giannis. So I just think Giannis is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's get right into the. Yeah.
Yeah. Best player in the league.
Okay. Yeah. Right into the championship match. So for me, that would be Giannis versus Steph, and yeah, I would go with Giannis as well. I don't think it can be said enough how underappreciated Giannis is right now. I think a lot of times you see a star lose in the second round the way he did, and I think it's pretty common for that star to just be completely underrated, underappreciated for like the following 6 months until the season starts, and they really show you who they are again. But Giannis has proven it over and over and over again at this point. So there's really no reason for that. And I mean, I truly believe he's the best player in the world. That's where I'm at.
I do too. Yeah. Just, I don't know. It's just something about him. As we said earlier, he's rare.
Yeah.
He's a rare talent. The size, I'm not going to list it all off, but it's just Luka's great. I think these are two players. The reason I kind of went this way is I think this is what the league, like these are the two faces of the league for the next 10 years.
Yeah, and it's also like with Giannis, the combination of the intangibles we talked about earlier, the combination of talent and leadership ability and humility and the ability to be coachable. That's so important. Those little things that he's able to do. I think that all plays a part in it for sure.
Yeah, we could honestly do a whole segment
on just Giannis.
Giannis yeah. There's a lot of players in this bracket, but man, was this a fun exercise?
Yeah, this was really fun, guys. Leave your comments below on what bracket we should do next, and we have some plans for some pretty amazing brackets coming up, and obviously we still have to finish the QB bracket, which we will do soon.
Yeah, that'll be next before we start any other bracket. We'll
Right.
finish that.
Right, exactly. But yeah, this was really fun. Drop a like, subscribe. I don't know if I said that earlier, but yeah, this was a marathon, guys. If you're watching right now, I really appreciate you because this episode was a beast. This is probably the longest one we've had in a while. So, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and I'm gonna let Michael sign us off.
Yeah, so I guess just like Donovan Mitchell's eventual time in Utah, maybe we are going.
Peace out, Jinx. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed that video, make sure to click on one of these two videos right here, our latest video right here on the left, or the video YouTube recommends for you on the right.